matchup spread, but that's because we don't know how good things like OTK Paladin can truly hold off aggression. And that's kind of where things are in the mix. We have OTK, Death Knight Paladin, even Warlock, Mid-Range Hunter available for Thijs. In the sense that I want him to do well, so I don't want to actually tell him about any advice that I have.
Yeah, I mean, we thought about it, and we're like, basically in his series against Hoy, for the first 2 games, Hoy just could not get it done with Aggro Mage. That was the story of it. And then Thijs had 3 chances from there, and he took 1 out of a total 2, and he won the series. So not much we could even say about this one, but Tom, I feel like, has a little bit more well-rounded of a lineup than Hoy. The Aggro Mage was definitely a vulnerability. Tom has just strong decks across the board with even Paladin, Spell Hunter, and even Warlock. Just not decks that are countered by much, but also not decks that are just going to beat everything.
Well, I mean, this could be one of those important matchups that Thijs needs to win. Mid-Range Hunter does not do a very good job building aggressive game plan against a deck that's, 28 removal spells and 2 hero cards. Zul'jin and Deathstalker Rexxar. And Thijs has a lot of momentum that he needs to build, but he does have one of the better hands to do it. I mean, he's got the curve, he's got Master's Call for the reload, he can even all in very fast, and then press for a win. And so Tom does not have the Candle Shot. He has got 2 Eagle Horn Bows. It's a little bit of an awkward hand to start things off.
I would agree.
And Thijs has the ability to coin out an Animal Companion here to maybe even lock out the Eagle Horn Bow if Misha comes out, or even Huffer, which adds a lot of damage. He does have the coin, which can be really valuable, but it's not like he's saving anything for the coin right now.
Yeah, and Mid-Range Hunter is a deck that relies a lot on tempo. I wouldn't call it a tempo deck per se, but it does rely a lot on tempo. So the coin, if you can just get something rolling, then a lot of times that's good, because especially with Spell Hunter, if you stay 1 step ahead, you can pile on pressure, force them to play reactive the whole game. The turn they play Spellstone, you kill them.
Well, yeah, that's right. This game might not even get to the point of Spellstone. Rat Trap is not what Tom is looking for. That's probably the weakest trap in terms of the early game, because, Thijs can't really play 3 cards very easily.
Yep.
At least for the first few turns. He definitely can, based off the way his hand's shaping up. So now Tom has to weigh if he wants to take this 4 damage or if he wants to kill command, because Mid-Range Hunter will lose steam and Spell Hunter will outlast. If Tom is a little bit too liberal with his life total, he might just die way before he can even get his momentum going. Ooh. Fearless. I like asserting dominance. When you roast that Huffer, you look it in the eye, as it's on the rotisserie. It's my style.
And then you eat its cracklings.
Wow, TJ got really excited when we started talking about food just now.
Yeah, the secret is I'm always hungry.
Yeah. Man, so Tom didn't use a kill command previously, but now he does, because he's taken this threat very, very seriously at this point. And he does have Baited Arrow as other removal tools, but this is where Flanking Strike is really important. Not for Thijs, but Tom. He really wanted it. And now Thijs, kind of a little bit of a slow development turn, but still has development turn nonetheless. How does he want to piece this together?
Yeah, he's got a good health lead, so Master's Call seems like it's a pretty slow play. But also Scavenging Hyena, since you're not training off any beasts the turn that you played, it's pretty vulnerable to just about everything.
Yeah.
So it's whether or not Thijs wants to slow down his game plan a bit, invest into the Master's Call, and try and make more powerful turns on turn 5 and turn 6, or if he wants to say, my opponent's at 18. I just want to keep hitting him, and then eventually I'll get to the point where I can just start hero powering and hopefully get there. And he goes with the keep up the pressure, because Tom's at 16 now.
I like it. I think Master's Call is a really good opportunity to close the game. And, Spell Hunter just needs the time. They do have a lot of value that will be able to push out the Mid-Range Hunter. And, Hunter versus Hunter has traditionally always been this matchup where there's like 2 phases, where 1, it's kind of like the early game development phase, and 2, it's like the ending phase. There's no middle ground. There's not a lot of foreplay in this, TJ. They usually just cut straight to the action, and it's usually around this health breaking point. When Hunter realizes that they could die to like a kill command, then all of a sudden the entire game plan shifts.
Yeah, you can no longer be proactive, you have to be reactive for the rest of the game. One of the things I did like from Thijs last turn as well is that he played out these smaller minions the turn before Deathstalker or Rexar were to come out, and he actually did have protection from it over 2 turns, even if Tom didn't play any minions, because he could have flanking struck one of his 1/1s, which would put a 3/3 on the board and also buff the Scavenging Hyena to a 4/3, which would have let him keep pushing damage through.
Yeah, this is scary. Like, sure, Tom just crossed the halfway point, but, you know, each Hunter hero power in succession is really fearsome. And Thijs is now, you know, he's very aware of that. He's thinking, do I even want to swing this weapon? Because I might need it to get past, like, a really annoying taunt minion, because we're coming up on my side. Misha would be really hard to deal with. And he doesn't have the guaranteed kill in 2 turns anyways. So, in his mind, he thinks this game's going to go at least 3 turns.
Oh, no! Those are bad!
Yes. Well, Misdirection has some room for play error on Thijs' side, and it's a secret that people rarely play around. In fact, Misdirection works actively against Wandering Monster, where you want to attack with, you know, a stronger minion to get past the body. But in Thijs' position, he already has so much damage that he's probably going to attack with a 1/1 anyways. Because Freezing Trap, you can bounce back the Spring Paw. With Wandering Monster, you push the extra damage. And then even things like Explosive Trap, it's the same regardless.
Yes.
So I think Thijs in his position will be perfectly fine. And I mean, that's how Tom responds. He says, I need to make sure that I take as little damage as possible. And now Thijs, he sees this. Is it going to be an Explosive Trap play around, or is it going to be something else? Oh, Thijs actually does have a real decision to make. And when I say that, it's largely because he isn't sure about what the secret is. And this attack with the weapon is actually fairly clever because he offsets the damage from the Misdirection. If you haven't played with Misdirection in a while, there's a very interesting interaction where if a minion on your side, like your own friendly minion, attacks into a Misdirection and hits yourself when you equip the weapon, it actually trades with the weapon damage.
Yes.
So that 1/1 that links would have attacked into Thijs, and then Thijs would have lost the health. So he actually saved 1 HP by doing this. Will that matter? I don't know. Probably not, because it looks like Thijs is going to either be blowing out Tom, or Tom will be blowing out Thijs in response.
But if you look at every other secret they want to play around, the difference between attacking with the 1/1 and attacking with the Candle Shot doesn't matter. It also would give him a read if it's, let's say, a Freezing Trap, then he could play around that with his remaining attacks.
Scary times for tom60229. Wandering Monster gives the ability to upgrade the Spellstone, and finally gives Tom an ability to potentially counterattack. And this also is a scary thing yet again for Thijs. You know, is it Explosive Trap? It's real decision time, making time.
Yeah.
He could hedge.
Yeah. Thijs was presented with a similar situation yesterday in his round of 16 matchup, where he had a potential lethal setup but decided to play it very safe. I wonder if it's going to be the same case this time, because he's running out of resources. The only win condition that he has right now is not through grinding out on board. It's almost solely through just dealing a lot of damage to Tom. So.
Yeah. I mean, if Thijs knew what was going on, he has a very high chance for lethal, assuming that there's no taunt minion summoned off the Wandering Monster.
Yeah.
He would Timberwolf and Crackling Razor Maw, which would add 2 plus potential of 3 more, and he already has 8 damage. So he would definitely be able to get across the hump. And we've seen Thijs make ballsy plays, and he's rewarded. He sees the Wandering Monster. He gets a little bit less damage, and now he's going to adapt for the win. Potentially for the win. If not, he has to recover.
Wind Fury would be a win.
No, plus health.
But the thing is Tom is so low that anything besides Deathstalker or Rexar right now is almost a death sentence.
Did Thijs get his last minion down on board? He didn't, but he still removed at least 1 wolf to prevent any kind of ridiculous, lethal, explosive trap. Okay.
All right, now it's difficult for Tom, because Tom has basically 2 turns to win the game. So he has to set up in the board in a way where he wins in 2 turns. Ooh, Misha, okay.
That's good. It eliminates like another Huffer lethal, at least in terms of what Thijs could possibly do.
Yeah, I think Tom in this position can't afford to play around anything in Thijs' hand or deck.
Well, he knows what Thijs has in his hand.
He knows what Thijs' hand, so he can't play around anything that's in the deck. Well, he can play around the hand by protecting his board enough so he doesn't die. But like I said, he has 2 turns. So he has to assume that Thijs isn't going to draw any damage and that he does have 2 turns to work with. And then operate backwards from there and say, do I win in 2 turns if I do this or this?
Yeah, and Thijs doesn't have that many ways to lethal. He has
Tundra Rhino?
He has Tundra Rhino, and he has Kill Commands and Animal Companion. I think that's it. But tracking could help him essentially reroll. Oh man, I don't know. I think Tom at this point is even relying on drawing Deathstalker Rexar to win. Unless he counts, he can get a... Unless he can get a Kill Command off the top. Yeah, Kill Command would still do it. Direbolt.
All right, so Tom has 14 damage pointed upstairs next turn.
And knows that this Misha will just absorb the damage straight up. Tom now, he has to draw damage.
So he needs...
Kill Command.
Kill Command.
To my side.
Baited Arrow.
Baited Arrow.
Rockdalar?
He can get damage from the Rockdalar.
No, he can't because he needs the hero power. He need double Arcane Shot? No, that wouldn't even do it.
He goes for it. The Beast Within is +1/+1.
Wait. Because the Rockdalar gives him an extra.
Damage. Yeah.
So he has 13. No!
It's so close. Is there a tracking?
Close. Tracking could pick up Arcane Shot.
Well fought.
Whoa! Wow! Now that was a finish to remember.
Yeah.
Good lord, that is stressful. Thijs, visions that were influenced based off their life total.
Yeah.
Right? Like, did Tom take a little bit of a too defensive stance, or did he take perhaps too aggressive of a stance with the Spellstone? I don't think so. I think, you know, there's a lot of questions to be had, which is why those kinds of matchups are, in my opinion, are very exciting to watch. Now we go from the Hunter versus Hunter to the Paladin versus Paladin, but again, different archetypes, different game plans. Tom's game plan was even Paladin, stack the board advantage. Thijs control Paladin featuring Death Knight combos. Pretty much just stall. And you know, previously when we saw this matchup on stream, TJ, with us casting, it ended up going to fatigue.
Yes, it did.
Because, you know, Thijs ended up playing, or sorry, Tom played against Shaxi, and it went the entire distance.
So Tom's got some experience today playing a very difficult version of this matchup. But Thijs' hand is hot.
It's pretty hot.
It's on fire.
Thijs is so popular right now. And, you know, I think if you look at the Call to Arms being the most important card here, Thijs has to just make sure that he doesn't take too much aggression. And this is something that you see Tom do fairly frequently. It feels like consistently, almost every series, we've seen Tom play a tempo Pyromancer on 2. And I think that just goes to show you how much he values pressure in this matchup.
Yeah.
Because he's been going up against slower decks. At least today he has.
Yeah, and he's going to be rewarded because his Pyromancer is going to stick around, so it's going to be clocking Thijs for 3 a turn. Tom's got no shortage of plays, and Thijs is hero power and passing this turn.
I mean, he could also play tempo right back. It's not great.
Yeah.
But because your opponent already used the coin, so you feel a little bit less bad about it. But man.
Reporting for duty.
Pyromancer getting 3 damage. It's already starting to work. It's exactly what Tom needs. He needs that damage. It incidentally gives Thijs an ability to use Flash of Light. And, you know, I like that Thijs isn't greedy. Some players, you know, when they use Flashlight, they use it on the minion because they want to get the Linessa Sun Sorrow effect by getting that extra card. But Thijs recognizes survival is the key here. In which case, that Blessing of Kings on Divine Shield minion, Crystal Smith Kangor going on the offensive.
Yeah, he didn't want to be vulnerable to True Server Champion in any way. That's why he traded off the Wild Pyromancer, wasted some of that damage. Ooh.
That's not exactly what Thijs was hoping for. He was hoping for more card draw sources and 2 Pyromancers going down. does mean that Thijs does not really have the ability to draw it and get an quality play.
Thijs might be forced to use his timeout earlier than he'd like to. And as we've seen many times this event, Thijs has only one copy of timeout.
He does have the Uther, but it's not going to be. He's not going to be able to rely very easily on any kind of combo to finish this game. Even Paladin, I think even Paladin's played like 3 cards, which is Pyromancer, Blessed Kings, and Crystal Smith Kangor.
Yeah.
And Thijs is already at half life. This is already very bad news for Thijs. Corpse Taker. Tom has an ability to press in big time. There is a Crystal Smith Kangor, so it might be worth thinking about if you want to deal with that first before you start pressing all in for the damage.
Yeah. Also, it may be worth... okay, never mind. He's not going to go for it. I said you're going to a Spike Receipt turn.
Yeah, but...
Or a Spike Receipt turn, which is any time after turn 6.
Yeah.
And he does leave the Crystal Smith Kangor up, but at least he does have the Spellbreaker for afterwards. But Thijs is going to net some... Actually, no, he's not going to net any.
No, yeah.
This is really smart.
He's dead. This is really smart by Tom because he recognizes that there's no Divine Shield... there's no lifesteal damage because of the Divine Shield.
Yeah, so
he saves his Spellbreaker to get past the Spiker Steed. That's game 2.
Tom is a smart dude.
Yeah, and he recognizes so fast because...
It took me like 10 seconds after he made the play. I went through the same process that he did. I was like, I need to deal with this Crystal Smith Kangor because of Spikered Steed. And Tom's like, wait, if I play the Corpse Taker, it has Divine Shield. If you play Spikered Steed, he can't play anything with it because he has 1 mana. It won't get the healing. I can Spellbreak it next turn and push for lethal. What a genius.
I mean, you would have gotten there too eventually, TJ. You just need a little bit more rope time.
A little bit more rope time.
Yeah, there's no shame in that. That's game 2. Tom ties it up. OTK Paladin is going to be one of those decks that has a big question mark in this series, especially because Thijs banned away one of the better matchups for the Paladin. Will Hunter to still be up in order for him to get that victory. With that, or relatives, I don't know.
50% chance to tickle the wrong friend. That could go horribly, horribly wrong.
Yeah. Yeah, I love pulling pranks on my friends.
Some friends don't like to be tickled. Don't try and tickle, that's admirable.
To be young and in love. All right, well, let's go into game number 3. Thijs versus Tom. That's a lot of T's. Cast by TJ.
Yeah. I've always been a big fan of Thijs because he has my name inside of his name.
So you're like part of his victory.
If you take out the high, those are my initials.
Yeah, so if you win the World Championship, you can be Thomas James?
That's my middle name,
Jameson?
yes. Jefferson.
Jefferson. Thomas Jefferson Sanders 60229.
Also known as Thijs. Thijs is me.
Awesome. Thijs 60229. Spell Hunter versus Even Warlock. Even Warlock can struggle a little bit for sure because there's even more burn in this deck than the usual because things like Baited Arrow going face and Rock Dalar getting extra spells like Arcane Shot or apparently the Beast Within to help push damage.
Beast Within.
So many possibilities.
And Thijs has already his choice of what 2-mana plays that he wants, and they all can be very valuable. Now, the thing that kind of maybe tilts it in favor is what could the secret possibly be, and usually spell hunters like to play the Wandering Monster on 2 because it's fairly ubiquitous in any situation and it's just generally good. Kind of like an ice block situation. You don't mind it going up. You generally like to put, versus Freezing Trap, Explosive Trap, they all have their situational uses.
Thijs also has the question of each turn. Maybe not so much for turns 1 through 6, but after that, how much does he want to life tap? How much does he need to win? How low can he get his life total? Lots of questions. Also lots of answers.
Yeah, there's definitely a ton of answers coming in from the Spell Hunter side. It's pretty much just a few proactive plays with animal companions and Wolves, and then just all reactive cards. And the good news for Thijs is that one secret has been played as opposed to 2, meaning that the Spellstone won't be at full power. Bad news is he just still doesn't really have a very good answer because he doesn't have Hellfire, which is that key card that he needs. Instead, he may be dependent on setting up a taunt minion with his mountain giant.
Thijs does pick up runner Spellstone, so he's got some gas to protect that life total. What is the trap?
It's explosive trap.
Okay. Tom playing quickly here. I think he's trying to give Thijs this read that it's freezing.
I don't know if Thijs can afford to take that risk. This is a bad matchup.
Yeah.
And that's something that, in the end, I do respect Thijs a ton for. I've seen a lot of players just end up allowing the fear to control their plays, and that just gives the player that's hiding that information such a strong advantage. Thijs is fearless. For better or for worse, it's cost him a lot of games, but also earned him a lot of money and prestige.
Yeah.
And, that kind of high-risk, high-reward payoff has really been kind of the crux of some of his success in recent times, which I feel like it's kind of separated himself from some of the more conservative lines that we've seen from players these days.
Yeah.
I mean, of course, it was kind of accentuated by that one play in the World Championship where he attacked a swashbuckler he played a freezing trap into the opponent's swashbuckler, and that just cost him the game.
Yeah.
Constantly in series, but I think he's learned a lot from that. That was probably the most crushed I've ever seen Thijs from just kind of a series of weak decisions. And ever since then, he's kind of picked up his mentality even further. And then, of course, he hit a huge stride with his stream success, and I think that's also done wonders, too, for his mentality. I like the bull tap, too. I think you really need to find some form of removal in case your opponent develops Spellstone or True My Side.
And he's also got plenty of life gain and taunts and big stuff to put in the way so that he's not really worried about his life total. Also, he's been playing on the front foot all game, which means that he's less likely to run into a situation where Tom just finds lethal out of nowhere.
Right, and that's something, too, also that Tom has to consider. Because he was a little bit slow in development, and even Warlock has taken initiative, this Spellstone is, fairly weak given the context of what's happening. Because now Thijs has access to 8 mana, and there's, a lot of ways for Thijs to be able to respond to this. Even just, individual removal with, a double Spellstone, for example.
Yeah.
And just diffuse the situation.
But the best clear here with Hellfire not picked up by Thijs, so even though he does have the individual removal and a lot of big stuff in hand, these Wolves are going to, at least some of these Wolves are going to stick around and maybe stunt a little bit of the pressure that Thijs has been able to build up. And one thing about Even Warlock is once they get to the point in the game where they're kind of going even threat for threat, they start to sputter out a little bit.
Yeah.
Because they do have a limited amount of threats and a lot of situational cards and a lot of removal, and they don't have those big combos that win in the late game. They have a slow burn with Blood River Gul'dan, which can potentially be the reload that you need, but they're not huge minions. 4/4s and 2/4s.
That's a good point, and that's why we might see the Death Knights play a really big importance as the game develops.
Yeah.
This To My Side, by the way, I think there's just several good outcomes. I mean, pretty much just Leok and Huffer is the nuts. Or is it? I mean, maybe Misha's important just to stave off the damage, but no Leok means slightly less damage right now. No fear. Tom has so much damage coming in. And this is kind of where Spell Hunter presses in for the win. There's a Defile available for Thijs. And he's got Spellstones, but they're not upgraded. Oh, until he picked up the Vulgar Homunculus. And, oh man, that's actually tough. Okay, so he can, oh man, all right.
He can Homunculus.
Spellstone Defile, but then he's not playing the Hooked Reaver. He really wants to play Hooked Reaver this turn.
Yeah.
Well,
He could Spellstone, then Defile, then play Vulgar Homunculus. So you have a 5-1 on board that hits Tom. And then you have a 2-4. You'd be at 7 with a buff Spellstone in hand. Representing 7 damage on a board where his opponent's at 9.
Okay.
This seems like a better, less pressure, but more defensive, because he's a higher life total, he's got a taunt in the way.
I mean, Tom has some lethal outs here. It's not even an out. He just keep pressing in. Like, even if the worst case scenario happens, Tom's pretty safe at the moment. Deadly Shot.
Deadly Shot. Deadly Shot is a 50-50 to end the game right now.
The thing is, you still might...
Oh!
Still might be able to get the big damage with the Huffer. Gets it. That is 8 damage.
Oh, man.
Thijs is very close as it gets to dead with it when a 100 hero power pointed at your face.
And a Rockdalar in hand for Tom. So many possibilities for lethal damage, even with the Spellstone. And the brutal thing is Thijs can't even upgrade the Spellstone because if he plays Vulgar Homunculus, he dies. But it's his only play.
It's only play, and he has to get Blood River Goldian next turn.
Yes.
And even then, he still might just die.
Wait, no. He's dead no matter what. No, he has to Spellstone, then Homunculus.
Yeah, Spellstone, then Homunculus.
That's the only way he survives.
Yep.
And he's effectively at 1 health because of the hero power.
Yeah. I mean, this is partially why I think clearing the board with the Defile was fairly important, because if your opponent was able to use any removal spells to leverage their board for damage, you get punished for exactly this. And now Tom, I mean...
It's lethal with Deathstalker Rexar plus Flanking Strike.
That's going to be it. Extra damage with the Flanking Strike, and that's going to be a Game 3 victory for our world champion.
Also, the home crowd favorite here, as you can maybe hear the cheers behind us. Everybody loves Tom.
The #1 Korean player by many people's standards in Surrender.
Yeah.
So that's going to be an interesting match coming up next if this game and this series ends up going Tom's way right here, right now. Even Warlock Mirror, Tom's on the play. Thijs can redeem it if he's able to get that Mountain Giant on 3, but with a Mountain Giant immediately in Tom's hand, this could be Tom's advantage right now. And of course, there are a few things do add an X factor. One of them is the 2-mana plays. Things like Stubborn Gastropod on Tom's side, things like Thijs' Doomsayer. But I don't see a Doomsayer, at least not yet.
No, it does have some other 2-drops though.
Yeah, but they're not high impact. Things like Vulgar Homunculus and Acidic Swamp Ooze are just band-aids for a much larger problem. And Tom also gets to take initiative with the first 2-mana play. So Thijs' first best draw right now is Mountain Giant. His second best draw is a Doomsayer. Does he coin out the Twilight Drake?
Yeah, I think you have to in this situation, because if you play this passively and just play a small 2-drop, and then your opponent drops a big threat and you have no answer to it, you're in a whole heap of trouble. But I mean, Mountain Giant trumps Twilight Drake any day of the week. He's even got ways to protect it with Shroom Brewer, so he can trade in the next turn.
1 card off.
Yeah, that's...
Well, it's 1 card off, but it still forces a reactive play from Tom. So, you know, Thijs has the opportunity to try to grab a little bit more initiative by playing, say, the second Twilight Drake. He has a Hooked Reaver, so he has a follow-up punish in case Tom gets too aggressive. There's a very intricate dance that happens back and forth between even Warlock or just Mountain Giant Warlocks in general, where if you push a little bit too aggressively, you can get punished. It's started all the way back from Molten Giant Shadowflame, and now kind of exists today with Hooked Reaver and even Warlock Mirrors.
Yeah. I don't think it's as bad these days because it's a little bit easier to play around because the strength of removal is not nearly as high, especially in even Warlock, because they're limited with what removal they can play. So you can sort of reach a critical mass by using your spells to support and force your opponent to play reactive.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, some even Warlocks were playing Shadow Flame as recently as a few months ago.
Yeah, that's true. Thijs does have the option to go Doomsayer plus Vulgar Homunculus and trade over the 2/3.
Oh. Thijs, does he want Tom to attack into this?
I don't know about that.
Because he has Defile. Trying to think, and so if Tom, what's stopping Tom from just Shroom Brewing right back? Okay, so if he Shroom Brewers right back, then Thijs gets the trade.
But then Tom has the initiative because he has a 2/3 and a 4/4 on board.
Well, he would get the trade and he gets to develop into a Shroom Brewer. So it's as if Thijs took. Well, yeah. Then Tom has the lead in terms of initiative, but he has a second Twilight Drake, so he can tap Twilight Drake. And if Tom chooses to be aggressive, like say he Shroom Brewers and attacks face, Thijs will be able to tap into Hooked Reaver.
Yeah.
So I think Thijs in his mind is hoping that Tom will get a little bit too aggressive, or if he's choosing to be too passive, he loses. Well, he would get the trade and he gets to develop into a Shroom Brewer. So it's as if Thijs took. Well, yeah. Then Tom has the lead in terms of initiative, but he has a second Twilight Drake, so he can tap Twilight Drake. And if Thijs.
It's actually pretty likely by the time he gets to 17 cards, which is at now, that he's drawn one of them. And honestly, the play that Thijs made last turn was, I thought, the play that's played around Spellbreaker, because like I said, he could have Vulgar Homunculus Doomsayer and trade off the 2/3 to try and isolate the Mountain Giant and get rid of the attacks, which could give him full board initiative instead of potential board initiative. But now he's in this weird situation where the Spellbreaker punished him anyway for the Twilight Drake, and Tom just has a full board lead. Coin's gone, so Tom's going to be able to hit those big threshold turns a turn sooner, meaning like turn 8 is a big one, because you can play 2 4-drops, or you can play an 8-drop, which are huge. And then he also gets first dibs on Blood River Gul'dan.
Yeah, first dibs on Blood River Gul'dan is pretty important. But Tom doesn't have a lot of giants in the pool, so the swing on the board is not as important. First, the Lich King, though, that's also a very big deal potentially. Now, Tom has to be very careful because the state of the board could also fluctuate the opposite direction. If he plays Twilight Drake, and gets a little careless, that might set up a Defile opportunity for Thijs. But then again, that also sets up a clean Lich King. So it's not a bad situation for Thijs, or Tom rather. Maybe by playing this Twilight Drake, he forces the issue and forces Thijs to be in a removal position, which is kind of what we were talking about with that Doomsayer, by the way. Does Tom trade and do the damages? I think at the very least, you can consider trading the 4/3 into or trade the Spellbreakers into each other. But the attack into your opponent. Yeah, I guess it's fairly trivial because your opponent can life tap anyways.
Yeah,
it's an odd cost.
Yeah, it's an on cost turn, so life tap is almost a given at that point.
Oh man! And now Thijs is in an awkward spot because of that Lich King threat.
Spellstone is at 5 right now.
Mountain Giant.
No Sun Fury though.
Your magic.
Yeah, this is Spellbreaker Defile, but initiative goes completely over to Tom, and now he has Lich King. And Lich King card can even end the game by itself too. You're looking at like Frostmourne and Death Coil. Obliterate's pretty useful because Tom can get past big taunts.
Yeah, also it can help him push out a buffed Hooked Reaver. He doesn't have one in hand, but it's kind of a side effect of that Obliterate has sometimes. But right now, Thijs just doesn't have a way to deal with it. He can just play 2 big threats with Mountain Giant and Hooked Reaver, but full initiative goes over to Tom at that point. He can play his own Lich King.
I think that's his only play. His only play is to play the Lich King, I think, because it gives him a potential swing card himself. He might get Doom Pact or Army of the Dead or something like dramatically impacting the board. The only problem is Tom has ways to get past that Lich King so easily with that Obliterate that he's willing to take the damage.
Yeah. Also, if Thijs plays Lich King, then his hand will be full going the next turn. So while he will get a Death Knight card, he won't get... Oh, never mind.
He's at 9 cards. So.
Yeah, he's at 9 cards.
Oh,
So yeah, maybe Lich King is a better play because he still gets the card in his deck and a Lich King card. And at this point, does he really...
I mean, I completely understand why Thijs wants to do this, but I don't know if it's the winning play. Just because it feels very easy for your opponent to punish.
Yeah.
There's like the Spellstone threat. There's the Lich King card threat.
Yeah, I mean, Tom can just load up a Twilight Drake, obliterate this Hooked Reaver, trade into the Doomsayer, protect this board from just about everything, and set up for 10 ways to lethal. Throw in a fully upgraded Spellstone as well.
That's right. Obliterate upgrades the Spellstone. And another Lich King card. What can Thijs do? Doesn't have that Lich King card to bail him out now. I think it had to be like a Doom Pact or something, but right now he has almost no life or no more room to play with. He has more life than you had if you played the Lich King. This is looking bad. It's actually, I was wondering if Hellfire could bail him out, but Spellstone is, or sorry, the Homunculus is great because of the Spellstone possibilities. So Thijs ends up surviving again. But what he's doing is surviving. And Tom's just has so much more where that came from. He's got Bone Mirror. He's got not Death Circle Rex, sorry. He's got Blood Reaver Gul'dan to back that up in the future turns. And to top it all off, Tom has extra burst from the hand in case he needs to close it out with just a couple minions on board.
Yeah. Whatever Gul'dan for Thijs will bring back a lot of demons, but I think, like, even if he drew it this turn, I don't think it'd be enough. I just don't think he has time to do anything.
Yeah, in Thijs' mind, I think he's back at the same point that he was a couple turns ago. Is it just Lich King and pass?
Yeah.
Can he tap into anything meaningful? If he gets another Spellstone, which I think he used both, actually. He used one for 3 and one at max, right?
I don't think he used the one for 3. That was last game.
That was previous game. So he could tap into a Spellstone, but that doesn't do enough because it just removes power on the board, but your opponent just develops one more time, and then you're still in the same exact spot.
Yeah. He could hope that Tom's hand is completely reactive. He's got no more threats left. In which case, tap into Spellstone maybe is only out. Finds a file, so he's got Hellfire to file, but I don't think it hits anything. There's going to be a 2 health minion on the board. 2 2-health minions on the board. And a 5 health minion. Seems good.
Yeah, that's going to do it. Thijs taps out. Tom is going to take the first semifinal and advance to the grand finals, taking out 2-time European champion Thijs.